Can I speak to a manager? Where can I get paperwork to file for my son? I wanted to put my son Joey in daycare.
And after a few questions, the lady went silent.
Looks like little Joey.
Yeah, I like that they were saying, like, there were chatters who were defending this, being like, well, he tried to check in his kid. Really, dude? Put yourself in the shoes. Let's say this is a real business. Let's say it's not illegitimate, right? It could be. It could not be. I'm not saying that this is a legitimate business. But if it was a legitimate business and someone fucking rolls up with meta glasses on deck with another guy that you may or may not have seen around your fucking kindergarten with regular frequency constantly yelling about where the kids are, you're going to be like, no, get the fuck out of here. Else, I'm in favor of prosecuting everyone that does it, regardless of what their background is. There is no, oh, wait, but they're Somali Americans, so we shouldn't prosecute them. That's not how I play this game. Okay? It's ridiculous. However, the actual inconsistent standard that is being placed here is not on the left, even though right-wingers try to claim that it's actually the left that is doing this. Right-wingers claim that it is actually leftists and liberals, libtards specifically, that say, oh, if it's a Somali person doing fraud, then you should let them go. Okay? This is not true. It's actually the right. It is actually the right that does this. The right says, if a Somali person is committing fraud, then all Somalis are at fault. We should only focus on the Somalis doing fraud, and we should deport them. We should denaturalize them. Do not look at the white people that are committing fraud. Do not look at the legacy Americans that are committing fraud. Do not look at the pandemic business loans, the PPP loan fraud that took place. Do not look at Brett Favre and all these other people who will never see the inside of a prison cell. Do not look at the type of person. Do not look at like Rick Scott, for example. That person who was investigated and never really saw any serious criminal repercussions for doing Olympic level Medicare fraud is an American senator, is an American, it was the governor of Florida, right? Like, I can't even speak about Rick Scott without everybody going, be careful. My point is, investigate and prosecute everybody, okay? Do not try to hyper-focus on like, oh, this is an immigrant problem. I don't want this to happen at all. I want it across the board investigated, okay? That's it. This is not whataboutism. This is consistency. Having said that, the coverage that you will see here has some correct elements, like some real elements that are alarming and are suspicious and may even tie back into the investigations that were already being conducted in Minneapolis specifically. But you will very quickly understand why the coverage takes this weird turn.
Hello, we'd like to ask where the money's going. What do you guys think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota?
I don't think anybody is enabling fraud to happen.
Hold Governor Walz accountable for this.
What was this money spent on? 1.26 million. What was that money spent on? There aren't any kids.
Answer the question.
Yeah, nuisance streaming tuned up to 11 at this point, by the way. This is like I'm seeing a lot of dangers here.
Are there children? There's no children inside this building.
Potentially the largest fraud scandal in U.S. history is taking place in Minnesota, as literally billions of dollars have been funneled through Somali-ran fraudulent businesses. So much fraud, it could actually almost replace the entire GDP of Somalia. These fraudsters have worked hand in hand with the Minnesota government as they enabled billions of dollars to be given to fraudulent businesses underneath welfare purposes. Some of this money eventually landed in the hands of terrorist groups in Somalia, like the
Do you see why I said? Do you see why I said he's just kind of not very smart? Like, he just, like, it's not even like I'm not even making fun of him because he's like a conservative or something, or at least portraying himself as a conservative or something. Like, he just genuinely is not very intelligent.
Shabab, and others enrich themselves all at the US taxpayers' expense. And in this video, we will break down all of the fraud from start to finish, from going to the fraudulent businesses and confronting the people who are making millions of dollars from the government. And we will also be confronting the incompetent government leaders who let this fraud happen. And to make this happen, I met up with a man who's been doing his own investigation.
This is always the same thing. It's always the same meta. You go to an area that is in the news, right? And you go with like a very obvious political purpose, like you have a political agenda, okay? If this investigation is to be conducted in a serious manner, right? I'm all with you. I'm right there with you. I love when ProPublica does shit like this, right? I love when Democracy Now! Or Dropsite News or numerous other independent news outlets actually take the time and go and properly investigate fraudulent activities such as this one. Okay, I cover those reporters all the time. These reporters don't exclusively cover, liberal positions or leftist positions either. They just look at crime taking place and they uncover it and they investigate it. Okay, but they do it in a professional manner. And the reason why these investigations should be conducted in a professional manner is because if you do it in an unprofessional manner, specifically to cut propaganda for the Republican administration, you end up actually harming the actual investigators, the prosecutors that are looking into the situation. This is what I like to call the pedo hunter phenomena, right? The pedo hunter phenomena. When you actually do not take seriously pedophilia and the criminal investigations that must be conducted very carefully around child predators, you end up allowing a lot of child predators to fucking roam free. And you're doing it in that situation for content purposes. And it's disgusting, okay? Vigilantism unironically ends up harming the actual procedures that must take place for justice to be served, okay? If your goal is sensationalization, if your goal is clout, if your goal is to cut propaganda specifically for, J.D. Vance or whatever, then you're going to end up not doing the best kind of investigation. The thing is, he doesn't do investigative journalism. His video is barely above TMZ level. In fact, TMZ has superior methodology and ethics, which says a lot about Nick Shirley. Yeah, of course. And I think this is one of the unfortunate downsides of the independent media dominance that's taking place, right? There's a lot of good that has come out of this. And there are a lot of wonderful investigative reporters. There's a lot of fucking awesome news outlets out there. Obviously, I wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the internet and also independent commentary and independent journalism in general. But there's also the downsides of it, where you do the whole, I'm doing my own research. And then you focus not on the actual criminality or the crime. You focus more so on you focus more so on just how Somali this style of crime actually is.
For years now, as he has seen the fraud firsthand, his name is David. Let's get into this and be prepared to be shocked.
How deep is this fraud here inside of Minnesota?
It is far worse than anybody can imagine. You heard it's 7 to 10 billion and maybe more, and now the numbers have been revised and put out there publicly that they think it's more like 8 billion. How I got involved is that where my office is here in Minneapolis, I'm sort of in the heart of all of this fraud, and I would see these childcare centers. I said, well, there aren't any kids there. It's the middle of the day, and all I...
No, David is not. David does not have credentials. He's a concerned citizen, and this is another part of the issue here, okay? Because he's basically delegating the task of digging into this information to random concerned citizen from the neighborhood, okay? This is, again, the Tyler Oliveira method. You're supposed to be doing that, okay? Proper investigative reporting dictates that what he's telling you right now, you're supposed to be doing on your own, okay? You're supposed to be doing, you're supposed to be digging deep into the files, the data, going to the fucking local government, and then verify, or even if you get this information from, some random Midwestern guy, you should probably verify it, right?
See a couple of guys standing out front smoking, and then I'd go by another daycare and I'd see the same thing. I said, well, where do these kids play? And so I started to go online and look, and I said, this place is licensed for 80 children. They had 0 children. Every time I went by there, they never had a single child there. And then I started to see all these transportation companies going around, and it was always a Somali driver. And I said, well, that's great. They're out there transportation contributing, but they never had a passenger, never, ever once. And I said, well, what is all this transportation? What are they doing? So then I found out that in Minnesota, they have something called non-emergency medical transportation. So this is going to the dentist's office, therapy, whatever it might be. And I said, well, how many of these companies are there? And the research came back that there are 1,020 of them, and more than 800 of them are Somali-owned. Nobody from the state of Minnesota ever cross-checks to see if any rides were ever actually provided. All they did was write the check.
So right here we have all this paperwork.
By the way, there was already a audit that took place, like a professional audit that took place. Here's from Minneapolis Post. state government. What we learned from the audit of Minnesota's child care assistance program: no suitcase full of cash, but plenty of baggage. These are programs that have been audited on numerous occasions. Minnesota's legislative auditor released on Wednesday a long-awaited investigation into a subsidy that helps low-income parents afford childcare, and it was a doozy. Fraud, fighting among state workers, failed policies and subpoenas all made their way into the report's 64 pages. Naturally, state lawmakers from the two major companies used it to draw a completely separate conclusion on a program that became a 2018 campaign issue and a sensational television story tied fraud in childcare centers to terrorist organizations in Somalia, something that Nick Shirley brought up in the beginning. But one of the key things that they found was that there was no actual evidence of a connection between the state's child care assistance program and Al-Shabaab or other terrorists. Okay. Having said that, they did actually find a litany of issues. This is precisely the reason why this story has never really gone away. And it's something that local reporters, independent reporters, and investigators have looked into over and over again since 2019. And of course, remember, this is 2019. What happened in the end of 2019? COVID-19, which also accelerated this sort of fraudulent activity by 1,000,000%. And not just in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but all around the country. One of the biggest examples of this, of course, is the PPP loan frauds that took place. Over $200 billion in pandemic business loans appear to be fraudulent, a watchdog says. This is an investigation from an independent watchdog from June 27th, 2023. Of the $1.2 trillion in federal aid dispersed on an emergency basis to small businesses during the pandemic, at least $200 billion or 17% have gone to scammers. That's the latest, most complete assessment of the potential fraud by the Office of Inspector General of the Small Business Administration, which oversaw the disbursement of the aid. Now, all of those fucking loans were basically forgiven. They were not supposed to be forgiven. They were supposed to actually have better interest rates if and only if you actually paid the employees and engaged in disbursement like you claimed you would, but many people did not do that, and yet they had their loan forgiveness. And that's a much larger number than we're talking about, even though, ironically enough, I'm willing to bet that a certain percentage of the Minnesota, the Minneapolis child care fraud scheme that they're talking about most likely came from that as well, okay? So just understand. A claim that the state was defrauded of $100 million could not be proven. The same goes for payments to terrorists. Last May, Fox 9 ran an investigation that claimed fraud in the child care program was rampant and perhaps even as high as $100 million a year. And not only that, but the initials, here's the other thing. Here's the other thing that's very frustrating, right? You literally cannot find a single mainstream article about the Minnesota fraud. Not even one. This is utter bullshit. Not only am I showing you one of the actual investigations that took place all the way back in 2019, but the notion that no one was in the mainstream was actually covering this news story is fucking idiotic. Of course they were. This is objectively a falsehood. The problem here, of course, is that on the right, nobody ever gets punished for lying like this. If you lie in a politically biased direction, no one ever checks you on that lie. No one ever actually even chooses to look into whether or not there's truth to this statement. This is genuinely frustrating, okay? So that's number one. How is it that a simple guy with a camera can uncover $110 million in a fraud in a single day, but a giant billion-dollar media organization behind the glass door somehow missed it for years? It's not that they couldn't find it, it's that they wouldn't, okay? This idea that mainstream news in the United States of America and in the Western world in general, because there are similar examples to what we talked about with like the grooming gangs in the UK, the notion that like police, investigators, independent auditors, and numerous other people are too woke to properly and adequately investigate the types of fraud that's taking place in Minneapolis because it's Somali Americans conducting this fraud is insane. The idea that mainstream media is refusing to cover it because of some woke reason is also insane. And it's also untrue. Okay, this got 19,000 likes. Kathy Young replied and said, "How is it that you're a liar and yet your bullshit spreads like wildfire? It is because a lie can go halfway around the world before the truth can tie its laces." Okay, to get up and report on it. Key questions about Minnesota's fraud schemes. Tim Walz can't admit the downsides of too much welfare. Opinion: welfare fraud is far too common. This is just from the Washington Post. Of course, there are plenty of people, especially in major media, that already despise welfare to begin with and want to cut welfare to begin with. Dave Weigel says, the initial New York Times story ran on 11:30 and definitely supercharged interest in the scandal. Wasn't simplistic either. Included both Garland DOJ bringing the fraud cases and the feeding our future scammers crying racism when they got investigated. So not only was the investigation covered, even the fact that the defense against that investigation featured the actual scammers crying foul by claiming this is actually racist scrutiny, not dissimilar to what we saw in the BLM stuff as well. In the BLM philanthropic structure for the international organization, there were a lot of people who kept saying, oh, this is really racist that people care about BLM. I was not one of those people. If you recall, I said BLM as a movement is valid, is correct, but the BLM organization was definitely getting up to some very improper shit. A lot of people yelled at me for it at the time. They said I was fucking racist. They said I was white supremacist for this take as well. Just so you know, while white supremacy is a real construct and certainly harms non-white people with regular frequency, there are definitely going to be instances where scammers are falsely claiming white supremacy in an effort not to have people investigate their shit. Now, does that actually matter to the investigators? I don't think so. Okay. I don't think so at all. I find it really strange that people will make it seem like cops are letting or prosecutors are letting people go because they're afraid of being called racist. This happens in the fantasies and in the minds of racist people in general. Was that a real thing that in the Minneapolis fraud case was deployed by the people that were perpetrating the criminal acts of fraud? Absolutely. How much success did it have is insane, okay? How much success that counter had is, I think, the part of the hysteria in this conversation. The hysteria is the notion that cops and investigators and prosecutors were actually being too woke.
And how are you getting all this information about the fraud?
A lot of it is through my own research. And then I have some contacts at the Capitol going back many, many years. And so the data that I'm getting is 100% accurate, coming directly from research done by people at the state Capitol.
All this paperwork right here, what are we looking at?
The areas of fraud that I have numbers for are mostly related to childcare. This is massive fraud that is beyond anyone's imagination, the scope. And so, for example, there's a childcare not far from here in Minneapolis that has two childcares listed at the same address. And together, they're licensed supposedly for 120 children. I have never seen a single child there ever, and I've been by that place at least 100 times.
These Somalians, these groups are setting up these daycares, these childcare centers, getting money from the government, but there's no kids.
No kids. Never had any of them. They're all fraught with violations, and even though they have these violations, they're still in operation and they're still getting money. And it's millions of dollars for every one of them every year.
And who's getting the money? And where are they getting the money from?
So we have a thing called CCAP. It's a blend of federal and state money. The bottom line is it's taxpayer money, so it's state money and it's federal money. And the problem is the people...
I need you guys to understand something, by the way. This is very nefarious propaganda. It's not just like anti-black, anti-Muslim, anti-Somali, claiming that every single person, claiming that fraud is almost entirely done by, these pesky Somalis, right? These scary Somalis. All Somalis are responsible for welfare fraud. But the other side, this is a double Monty. The other side of this fucking issue is that it is very anti-welfare. So this is perfect for even a lot of capitalists who will claim to be anti-racist, but actually despise government spending on any sort of welfare initiatives and will take advantage of this news story to say, see, the reality of the matter is there's a lot of fraud taking place at welfare. We just have to cut it. We just have to cut welfare. Nothing we can do about it. Okay?
The state of Minnesota are the ones writing the checks. This is kind of the maddening thing is you have daycare, so you have adult daycare, and then you have child care, and then you have health care. And a lot of these same names keep coming up on all of these different types of businesses. And then, of course, we have the transportation. A lot of those same names appear, a lot of the same addresses. There's one building that has 14 Somali healthcare companies at the same address. There's another building in St. Paul that has 20...
What are the comments looking like on this vid? Are people buying this shit? Oh, absolutely. The beauty of people like Nick Shirley and even Tyler Oliveira initially is that they get to present themselves as totally independent and not right-wing at all. They get to present themselves as like, guys who basically took on the mantle of real investigative reporting because nobody would, not realizing that these guys are not fucking apolitical at all. As a matter of fact, they're basically cutting propaganda for J.D. Vance, cutting propaganda for the Trump administration. And that's the problem. I'm just asking questions, and I'm finding a lot of fraud here will play a major role. Now, for the record, in terms of like a sequence of mass fraud taking place in not just Minneapolis, but all around the country, especially at the point of like taking money from government initiatives and instead of actually reappropriating those funds to things that matter, to improving the lives of the people who are less fortunate, who desperately need said funds, Is it lining up people's pockets? Of course it is. This happens all the fucking time. It's completely unacceptable, and it's good to actually punish the people who are engaging in this. So my criticism of this sort of commentary is twofold. One, because it's like inherently anti-welfare propaganda, because the heavily implied through line throughout the videos like this is basically that like welfare is bad and we need to cut it, and it justifies the right-wing position, the right-wing framing, which isn't to fix the problem, tackle the fraudulent aspects, and make sure that people who have engaged in this sort of welfare fraud are criminalized, punished, and then it never happens again. And we make sure that we reappropriate the funds adequately so that people actually get the help that they desperately need. But it goes along with the anti-welfare propaganda that Republicans are constantly trying to cut. Okay, the bad thing is the fraud. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's a black person doing the fraud. It doesn't matter if it's a white person doing the fraud. You have to be anti-fraud. Okay, the bad thing is not that it's Somalis doing the fraud. The bad thing is not that there is. The bad thing is not welfare in general that sometimes leads to people engaging in fraudulent activities off of the funds that they're getting from the government inappropriately. Okay, the crime is the crime, no matter who's doing it, and it should be investigated and it should be punished. Ironically enough, and especially in this instance, in Minneapolis, they have been investigating it. Now, do I trust the current administration to conduct a proper and thorough investigation and actually find every single person that is responsible for it? Not necessarily. Unfortunately, with less confidence in the FBI, with less confidence in our prosecutors, with less confidence in our investigators, it's more and more vigilante justice is going to be enacted. And the issue here in the long term is that the vigilante justice clickbaiters, unfortunately, will have a hard time conducting a proper and thorough investigation, and it actually might muddy the waters. It actually might allow some of these criminals to get away.
2 Somali healthcare businesses at the same address.
And the government knows about this.
Wait, what is this? Hassan, with love but frustration, you really have no fucking clue how convoluted and confusing getting shit like SSI is. That $50 you don't report that grandma gives you, that's fraud. Saying prosecute it all when you don't know how these systems is rigged is frustrating. Please do more research. No. You're misunderstanding something incredibly important here. And I talk about it all the time. Fraud, whether it be Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud or any kind of welfare fraud, is never conducted at the individual level. It's always systemic. Individuals might be responsible for this fraudulent activity, Rick Scott being a great example of this, but they're doing it, they're responsible in the sense that they are tasked with governing the main agency or main body or the healthcare provider that is doing the fraud. Okay? This kind of stuff is institutional. And unfortunately, because when there is not a lot of exhaustive resources that these regulators have, they go after fucking grandma and grandpa for what they consider to be fraud. It's the same principle behind the IRS. The IRS goes after small business owners because they can't go after the fucking billionaires. Okay? They don't have enough money and they don't have enough power to go after the fucking billionaires. And it's much easier to go after the small business owners that are doing like low-level fraud, for example, or low-level tax evasion. And it's the same principle here as well. You don't go after the actual business owners, or rather, the actual business owners that are conducting this kind of fraud with regular frequency get away scot-free because they have high-powered attorneys that they can pay millions and millions of dollars to make sure that they evade any sort of legal scrutiny in the process. That's why I keep going back to Rick Scott over and over again. Not only free, but also working as a legislator to continue legalizing the exact type of criminal activities that he was supposed to be punished over. Okay? Do you understand? I'm a healthcare, specifically Medicare specialist in Twitch chat. You done now, bruh? What do you mean? The guys that are responsible for this kind of thing, the guys that have been investigated and charged for any sort of welfare fraud in Minneapolis are not like random people that were getting money and then, random aunts and uncles that were getting money and then like giving it to their children and then not reporting it. And they were like low level, committing what would be considered like a low level offense that under most circumstances would require like a lot of leniency in the sentencing. These are people who were directly fucking funneling. They were directly funneling government funds, state funds and federal funds into their pockets without actually having those funds properly allocated to the services they were supposed to provide. That part is fraudulent activity. It's criminal behavior. They should be punished.
Knows they're writing the checks.
But they're businesses, they're organizations that are doing this, not individuals. Like, it's not grandma and grandpa.
What has happened is that the Somali community is a very closed community. They will not speak to anyone outside the community and talk about what's going on within the community. They vote as a block. And so when you're a politician, you're saying, look, I've got 100,000 people in Minnesota that if I do something for the community, they're going to vote for me. And that's what it's all about, is getting the votes. And then the people here in Minnesota, you hear this term, Minnesota nice. I'm so sick of that term. The people here are so afraid of being called a racist or an Islamophobe. And they're afraid of their own shadow. And I don't understand. This is our future generations are going to have to pay for all this fraud. And they just want to bury their heads in the sand and go on and just not worry about it. Tim Walz saying there's organized crime in Minnesota. What did he do about it? Nothing. You got organized crime? What are you doing? This is
the the other side of this is like this is a very this is also very directed at Tim Walz as well. It's like a very anti-Tim Walz thing. I love how Tim Walz is responsible for anyone who commits a crime in the state, but Elon is not responsible for the hundreds of thousands of deaths he knew would happen after he destroyed U.S. aid. Of course not. It's not Donald Trump that's responsible. In the eyes of these people, Donald Trump is never responsible, for example. Donald Trump can only be failed, okay? Donald Trump cannot fail. He can only be failed. You know? That's just how it is. Like, and is there a duty for Tim Walz as the governor to adequately to ensure that there's like adequate prosecution? Abso-fucking-lutely. Okay? Abso-fucking-lutely. Does he have a responsibility on this? I think so. Yeah, I do. Good czar, bad boyars, yeah.
Minnesota law, which mandates
that
anyone who knows of fraud and is a state employee must report that fraud. It's Minnesota Statute 3.971, Subdivision 9. Not only that, but Walz is also guilty of misconduct of a public employee. When I look at the world as a whole and I look at fraud, the Twin Cities is ground zero. The fraud is worse here than anywhere else ever in history. Anywhere.
We're going to go confront these people. We're going to go to these daycare centers. We're going to see what's actually happening.
Okay, so we have to be careful because these people are very violent. They're exceptionally violent.
Now, with all of David's evidence, we headed out to the streets of Minneapolis to see how much fraud we could uncover in one afternoon.
Where are we going now?
We're going to a place called Mako Child Care, which actually has another child care registered at the same address called Mini Child Care Center.
So we should see lots of children if there's this child care center, especially if there's two.
The two of them combined are licensed for $120.
And how much money have these child care centers received?
None of those vans had moved in 6 months. None of them. In 2020, one of them received $1.3 million. In 2021, they got $987,000. In 2022, they got $714,000. That's the last I have for that one. And then the other one, $1.604 million in fiscal year 2025. Fiscal year 2024, they got about $800,000, and in fiscal year 2023, they got $904,059. This place right here. Yes.
We're outside of it.
Well, this is actually two daycares are registered here. One of them is Mako.
You missed the violent Somalis? Is that what you said?
Careful because these people are very violent. They're exceptionally violent.
Now, with all of David.
Exceptionally. What is this? I don't even like Nick. I'm not a fan of Nick, but those of you hating on him are completely wrong. You're probably incredibly naive. I don't even like Nick. Brother, you're just describing to us that the propaganda is working for you, okay? I don't think people understand. I don't think anyone in this community, I certainly am not doing this, and I don't think anyone in this community is actually saying, oh, dude, let the Somalis do fraud, okay? No one's fucking saying that. Please understand, I am in favor 100% of criminally prosecuting anyone and everyone, regardless of their background, regardless of their ethnic background, regardless of their immigration status, to be properly charged, investigated, and then hopefully criminally convicted. Can you debunk this? No, a big part of, again, conspiracy theories require a kernel of truth or good propaganda necessarily, because this is not even technically a conspiracy theory. There are conspiratorial elements in it, like with the extension of this crime being this crime happening with every single Somali person, okay? But the point is they're not investigating the actual corruption. They're using the actual corruption investigation to investigate the entire community, okay?
It's evidence. We headed out to the streets of Minneapolis to see how much fraud we could uncover in one afternoon.
Where are we going now?
We're going to a place called Mako Child Care, which actually has another child care registered at the same address called Mini Child Care Center.
So we should see lots of children if there's this child care center, especially if there's two.
The two of them combined are licensed for 120.
And how much money have these child care centers received?
None of those vans had moved in 6 months. None of them. In 2020, one of them received 1.3 million. In 2021, they got 987,000. In 2022, they got 714,000. That's the last I have for that one. And then the other one, 1.604 million in fiscal year 2025. Fiscal year 2024, they got about 800,000, and in fiscal year 2023, they got 904,000.
What are they investigating? What are they quote unquote investigating? They're investigating whether or not these are actual real businesses or real childcare centers, or they're simply getting money from both the federal government and the state government, and not actually providing the services they are claiming that they're providing. Okay. Now, part of the problem with this investigative reporting, and this is the issue when you are not a credible reporter, is that if you agree with the framing here, if you agree with their framing, you're going to look at this and go, this is the best investigative reporting of all time. If you call it into question, people will say, why do you want fraud to take place? That's not the case. My argument here is that you have to be a real investigative reporter, or at least engage in investigative reporting in a way where you clearly are presenting an unbiased narrative and not simply right-wing fucking propaganda that dictates that this kind of fraud is only happening at the hands of Somalis that are living in Minneapolis, and that it's happening because welfare is bad. If you do that, then I can't take your investigative, quote-unquote, investigative reporting seriously.
$1,059. This place right here. Yes.
We're outside of it.
Well, this is actually two daycares are registered here. One of them is Mako, which you see on this sign. The other one is Mini Child Care Center. And between the two of these child care centers, they're pulling in about $3 million.
Like, here, I'll give you one example. Even if this business itself is improper, right? It is fraudulent. The irony is the way that they arrive at that conclusion, or the way that they build that narrative, is by talking about SOS filings, and showing that like the same place has two different filings. You have umbrella corporations that are a part of the same exact the same exact company. For example, you can have numerous filings for the same business. This doesn't automatically imply that there is fraud happening there. Okay, there could be in this circumstance, but the very fact that you arrived at that conclusion by, or the very fact that you are that ratio, bud. What ratio? What? Why do people come in here and say stuff like this? Because it derails you, probably.
$1,000 a year, and there are no children. Every facility that you go to, the windows will be blocked out so you can't see in. There's nobody here. You won't see a single child at any of these facilities.
There are indeed no windows. All the windows are blacked out right here. All right, let's go in.
No.
And the child care center is locked. Should we ring the doorbell?
So the other part of the problem here is, again, purely on the basis of like conducting real reporting on this matter, which is, again, a very serious crime that needs to have a proper, cohesive investigation. A proper investigation is necessary in this circumstance. But if you just like leave it up to random guy with a YouTube channel, I don't know if he's going in the middle of the day. I don't know if he's going in the afternoon. I don't know if he's like going at a time where this business actually has like children in it. And there's no way to confirm. When you are doing it in a way where, I don't know if he's going on the fucking weekend, when you have no way of like seeing the verifiable truth here, and it's like very clearly a one-sided biased framing, even if there is truth to the overall, the overarching criminal fraudulent activity, there is a likelihood of spreading that to random businesses that aren't actually engaging in the criminal activity. You understand? And of course, a lot of people will just simply say, holy cope. This is not cope. I'm telling you how this is supposed to be conducted. As someone who works with investigative reporters with regular frequency, you will never find a person that will say this kind of investigation is properly conducted. We went to a random local who had issues and we didn't cross-reference the information that they have. We didn't cross-reference the information that they had at all. And we didn't do a thorough investigation into the claims being made at all. And we just simply went there. Who knows at what time? Who knows at what place? Who knows if it's over the weekend or not? You know what I mean? Who knows what the situation is in terms of like when they're going there? I have to. You are coping hard, guilty until proven innocent. Exactly. That's it. And the craziest part about this, is that it's even more dangerous to do this with real crimes that are taking place, because then you have the capacity to fucking ruin an active investigation that's taking place potentially. Okay?
Try to get in, rang the doorbell, nobody showed up. They're open 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. it says here on their sign, yet there's absolutely nobody here. And this building here, right here, has generated millions of dollars, and it seems like business isn't even open right now, and it's a weekday. And if this was a daycare center, it wouldn't just be in some industrialized building. There'd be maybe like a playground or something outside, or...
There's no play area for the kids. So where are the kids? Where's anybody? How can there be nobody here? And it's like this every single day. I've never seen a single child here. In 9 years, I've never seen a single child at this building. Right there.
Oh, then now...
But the facts don't care about your feelings. 250 million gone, 0 kids fed, physically impossible numbers. Trying to deflect the Florida is a weak-ass move. You're not standing up for a community. You're just a useful idiot for people who stole from their own people. Stay mad. My barber ruined my hair, 450 KR. Brother, what are you saying? Please point to me at any given moment where I've said that this kind of welfare theft is appropriate. Please point to a single time where I've said that any sort of welfare theft is appropriate. It's not a deflection at all. I don't know why people do this. And then you have this. Also, this is ChatGPT. Once again, 100% ChatGPT. I'm losing my fucking mind. You have decided that I, as someone who cares about welfare programs, want there to be fraudulent activity. You made that up in your mind. And instead of trying to understand where I'm coming from and what I'm saying about the way that this investigation was conducted, regardless of the veracity of the claims being made, you have decided, oh no, you're just, you're just mad because you want Somalis to keep stealing welfare or something. Okay?
Oh, it looks like we already got the Somalis coming through.
Yeah, they're coming. The word's out.
Hello, is this your daycare?
No. Did you tell us why there are no children? Have you ever seen children at this child care center?
I'm not sure. I don't.
Doesn't know if she's ever seen a child here. All right, let's go to the next location.
And the fraud only gets more from here. Make sure you stay till the very end of this video to see exactly how much fraud we find by the time we are done. And before we go to the next location, I want to show you something super interesting about the flags of Minnesota.
And here in Minnesota, if you take a look at the
The flag of Minnesota.
Minnesota state flag, they recently changed it, and it very much so resembles the flag of Somalia. And really quick, I want to tell you guys about the sponsor of this video, Opus Clip.
Oh, I'm so glad that there is like a tremendous apolitical commentary being done here. You know, the apolitical investigators are on it.
And now let's get back into the video. Now we're going to the next daycare center. How much money has this one generated?
This one, in fiscal year 2025, $1,042,059. In fiscal year 2024, $1,059,000.
By the way, that was democratically voted on. Okay. And I'm pretty sure the person who designed it is not even a Somali person at all. It's so fucking ridiculous. What the fuck does the flag have to do with anything? What does the flag have to do with anything? This is similar to how you talk about heart surgery or driver's license can be described as nefarious. I know it's a big part of right-wing commentary is to be like, well, I can't walk into this area. This is suspicious. Like there could be a million different reasons for it. Yeah, Minnesota had a flag redesign. Okay, Minnesota had a flag redesign competition, and a bunch of people actually put up their designs. I like the former crest, by the way. The new Minnesota flag adopted in May includes symbols specific to Minnesota and was not inspired by Somalia, the flag's designer and a flag expert. advisor on the redesign told Reuters. This is just like racism-induced schizophrenia, for the record. Students raised concern about Minnesota's previous flag design in 2017. Peak woke. Concerns were shared by vexillologists who advised on the new design. The Minnesota State Emblems Redesign Commission, established in 2023 by a State House bill, presented its design for a new state flag. The old flag of Minnesota violated every principle of good flag design. Brian Cham, a North American Vexillological Association member who advised the CERC, said in an email, I hate that. Including the name of the place on its flag is lazy. It can be read while waving, and it almost seems like an admission that the flag is so unrecognizable that it needs to be labeled. Oh my God, vexillologists. Oh God, flag autists are literally... Anyway, whatever. I'm not even going to get into the vexillologists and the smoke I have for them. Luckily, they will never touch my beautiful California state flag. If they do, I will fight for it tooth and nail. Okay? I hate the minimalist flag design. I think it's lame as hell. I get so annoyed. That's a totally separate thing that I get angry at, unjustifiably, potentially. Anyway, there was a competition. There was a winning flag design. Minnesota resident Andrew Precker's submission to the CERC's design contest inspired the final flag design. In an email, Precker said his design drew inspiration from the state's history and culture. The dark blue field is the shape of Minnesota, and the light blue field represents the significance of the water in the state. The 8-point star represents the North Star, which is also the state motto, L'Étoile du Nord, as seen on the floor in the state capitol's rotunda. Cham said the new flag exemplifies all principles of good flag design. And when people say, oh, the old flag was actually representative of like land theft and genocide, okay, but that's not the reason. That's not the reason why they wanted to fucking replace it with this. The reason why they wanted to replace it with this is because it's too busy. They hit it from a vexillologist angle, not even from the racism angle. And that's why I fucking hate it. I think it's fine to have busy flag design, okay? I don't think we should be held captive by vexillologists and their intense desire to make all flags look as simple as fucking possible. Hassan, you don't know shit about flags, lol. Whatever, dude. I had no idea flag people were this intense. Oh, you don't understand. Anyway, the point is, it has nothing to do with Somalia, okay? That is just something that an insane conspiracy theorist cooked up. And now we have to deal with it because when the most insane person comes up with a conspiracy theory, especially one that is racialized, there are a fuck ton of people who go, yeah, that must be right. That must be right. That's probably the case. Hassan is pro complicated street signs. Fuck no. There's a difference between a flag and a complicated street sign. What are you talking about? When is the last time you looked at a flag to indicate anything but like where you're at? It's what? God damn it. I'm gonna keep yelling at my chat over the fucking the Anyway, let's continue.
$78, and in fiscal year 2023, $727,336.
This next one is literally one block away, and this one's also generated nearly $3 million in the past 3 years. Let's see if there's any children. Let's see if any of the buildings are open. Here we go. All right, we've arrived to ABC Learning Center. All the windows are blacked out. Let's see if anybody is here. This door is locked.
This facility is licensed for 40 children. 0 children. I've come by this place 100 times. I've never seen a child here, ever. The only thing I've ever seen is someone standing outside smoking.
What's crazy about this is that last daycare center is that green building right there. And the other daycare center right now is right here. These buildings should be operating as they're receiving literally millions of dollars.
I knocked on the door, and to my surprise, somebody actually answered the door.
Hello? Can we speak? I would like to check a child in the daycare.
Like, normally the normal way to conduct this investigation is one, to obviously verify the information that he got from random concerned citizen, right? Let's say you get a random tip from a concerned citizen. You're supposed to verify it with the state. You're supposed to verify it with like investigators, call up the police, call up like local law enforcement, identify in the past state prosecutors or investigators that have actually conducted investigations into fraudulent activity at these sorts of at these sorts of like child care centers, right? You're supposed to go to the licensing board. And then after that, you are supposed to call them up individually or try to fucking figure out if there's actually any sort of fraudulent activity taking place over a long and extended period of time. You can't just like roll up randomly in the middle of the fucking day with a camera and meta glasses to be like, can I see your children? Are there children inside? What the fuck are they supposed to know? They don't know if you're a fucking creep or a pervert. You look like a pervert. Whether or not there are actual children in there or not doesn't even change that reality. Like,
Can I speak to a manager? Where can I get paperwork to file for my son? I wanted to put my son Joey in daycare.
And after a few questions, the lady went silent.
Looks like little Joey.
yeah, I like that they were saying, like, there were chatters who were defending this, being like, well, he tried to check in his kid. Really, dude? Put yourself in the shoes. Let's say this is a real business. Let's say it's not illegitimate, right? It could be. It could not be. I'm not saying that this is a legitimate business. But if it was a legitimate business and someone fucking rolls up with meta glasses on deck with another guy that you may or may not have seen around your fucking kindergarten with regular frequency constantly yelling about where the kids are, you're going to be like, no, get the fuck out of here.
Shirley ain't going to daycare here. And now where are we going?
Now we're going to Sweet Angel Childcare.
We're in the middle of a strip mall here inside of this neighborhood.
In fiscal year 2025, this facility, which has its license for 74 kids, was paid $1.26.
Also, I hope you guys understand there were multiple investigations and visits to this facility. Yeah, you can look it up on the licensing. Why is it not clickable? But the other side of this is like, you guys understand why this shit is dangerous, right? Because now you got not one guy, but a million other guys who are going to be like, oh, I can't wait to go to fucking Minneapolis and harass every kindergarten. Go outside of every kindergarten with my fucking camera. Okay? This creates copycats and mass harassment. There is a reason why we say vigilante justice and decentralized acts of violence in circumstances or like adventurism is bad, because it just completely destroys whatever social fabric existed that is necessary for normal civilized existence. Do you understand? DHS is aware of a systems issue that is preventing some newly completed documents from posting as required. This is the license holder for the ABC Learning Center. There have been numerous licensing reviews, right? 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025. That was the one that they went to last. Total capacity is 40, no restrictions whatsoever. Let's see what the last potential violations were on the outcome of the visit. Licensing review 11/7/2025, Children's Records. The individual child care program for a child with a known allergy did not contain all required items. The program did not have enough information about a child's known allergy. Facility electrical outlets were not tamper-proof or shielded. Menus did not comply with their nutritional requirements. Cribs were not checked annually against the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission's websites of listings of unsafe cribs. Written parental permission had not been obtained for administering medicine or topical products. Children did not have daily access to all interest areas. Staff did not supervise the children at all times. All staff did not complete the ongoing training requirements. And the program did not comply with individual child care plan, program plan requirements. This literally means that while there are issues with this kindergarten, seemingly through this investigation, we have found out that there are actually still children that are being cared for. Because obviously, if there wasn't any children being cared for, I suspect that they would probably bring that up in the violations. No, you know, it's a bad daycare, but it's still a daycare. It seems. I worked for an ABC Learning Center in Washington. It's real. They're a chain of learning centers across the nation. Yeah, because remember, this is not a fucking YouTuber, right? Apparently, one of the daycares is permanently closed, and he blurred out the paper that said so. There's a difference between a proper investigation being conducted that is comprehensive and actually finds issues, okay, with a national chain of daycares like ABC Learning Center, that obviously due to the profit motive, I suspect, and due to underfunding, I suspect is going to still have a litany of complications, but ones that can be addressed and is not as like world ending as there are no children there, right? But do you see the difference between a professional investigation that was conducted during the licensing review versus random YouTuber walking out there and being like, I didn't see any kids here, so it must be fake. It must not be a real place. Do you understand?
I would like to check a child in a daycare.
Like that's not an investigation. That doesn't say children were there, does it? Brother, they do in-person investigations. Unless there is a much larger, much more consequential scheme at play here, where the actual state officials in the Department of Human Services in the state of Minnesota are in on the scheme. No, these violations are really bad. We shouldn't be standing for licensing stuff like this. I didn't say that, dude. Oh my fucking God. You do understand there is a fucking entire world, an entire universe between these guys have no children there whatsoever versus there are a litany of complications with some of the standards that they need to apply that they have been warned for versus there's no children there at all. Children did not have daily access to all interest areas, or staff did not supervise the children at all times implies that there are children there. They are just not being supervised sufficiently. And not only that, but they also applied a correction documentation. They submitted it and it got approved. Like this immediately, guys, don't kill the party, please. What is this? This immediately disproves the main point that he's driving home, which is that there's no children there. Okay? Because if there were no children there, then there would be no way to figure out whether or not they were actually fucking supervising the children at all times or not. Do you understand? And before people say, oh, you're defending these like violations. No, I'm not. I'm not defending these violations at all. I am, however, understanding of like all of the litany of complications that come along with something as like as stringently investigated as like this sector that is like this is far more the investigations that they do into licensing of like child care specifically is far more stringent than even like the elderly care. Like there are so many instances of abuse and exploitation is so fucking predatory. Like elderly care is far worse. Okay? You're making excuses for them, even though you're right 99.9% of the time and have the moral high ground with most of your beliefs. This naivete will cause people to never trust again anything you say. I understand your worries about copycats, and yeah, this Shirley guy sucks ass, but it's a legitimate issue to investigate. Because this is a legitimate issue to investigate, I think it should be thoroughly investigated and not made a mockery of for a fucking biased propagandist purpose from a YouTuber who has no interest in actually properly and sufficiently investigating it. That is the reason why I'm fucking getting mad. I agree with that. No, you don't, because you clearly don't have the fucking mental fortitude to understand that is the point I'm making over and over again and consistently fucking reiterating it.
Where can I?
Anyway, let's get back to the other
now
one.
We're going to Sweet Angel Childcare.
We're in the middle of a strip mall here inside of this neighborhood.
Like this is also, it's a goalpost shifting. If your primary argument is that there is no children at these kindergartens, okay, at the childcare facility, but then we find out through further investigation, at least conducted by the Department of Human Services in the state of Minnesota, that there are actually children there, but the specific facility has met some criticism and in the investigations are for licensing criteria, okay? And you turn around and say, why are you defending the fucking lack of adequate childcare in the facility? No, I'm not. I'm not defending that. But you're changing the goalpost. If my argument here is about like a proper investigation being conducted on a very serious crime, a very serious criminal accusation, okay? And that the main point of contention that they're driving home is just immediately disproven, you can't just fucking shift the goalpost to a separate problem, okay? Because this isn't just like a fake investigation that was being conducted. This is a shitty investigation that was being conducted that got retweeted by the fucking vice president, okay?
In fiscal year 2025, this facility, which has its license for 74 kids, was paid $1.26 million in tax money. And there are no kids, and all the facilities are the same way, all of them.
Let's see if anyone opens.
Yeah, let's see.
Once again, I try to find a spot for my son Joey, and they would not open the door.
I want to put my son Joey in daycare. Cause I need.
Dude, I'm gonna be honest. Like, you could have literally done a better job with this. Even like Nick Omalana, right? Nico Omalana does a much better job with this kind of stuff. He's not a fucking he's not a fully fleshed out investigative reporter, but like he does shit like this all the time, right? But it requires a lot of setup. You can't just like roll up with a fucking phone camera and just or roll up with a crew. Okay, sorry, Nico Omalana. And be like, oh, I have a kid, open the door right now, I have my child with me, I have a child. Like, no, like, if you want to do a proper investigation or even a better YouTube video on this, actually set up a fake child, okay? Actually set up an interview, put a secret camera on your chest, go inside and have a proper conversation, figure out whether or not there are actually, whether or not this is a legitimate business. Do you guys understand my point here? I hope people understand what I'm trying to say here. Rolling up like this is obviously not going to lead to any sort of real information. You're being naive because they have people in the government working for them in Minneapolis. Okay. Once again, that is a far, far bigger conspiracy now. And in order to tackle this conspiracy, there is a proper way to investigate it. Then you go to the authorities. Here, I'll explain it to you. We just looked at the licensing board, okay? He went to that place. He claims that there's no children. He couldn't go inside. He yelled outside of ABC Learning Center. What you're supposed to do is call up ABC Learning Center. ABC Learning Center obviously has many different locations all around the country, okay? It's a chain. You call up the chain. You say, hey, I went to this location. I wanted to actually see if there's any slots available. I have a child. I want to have them go to ABC Learning Center. It's close in proximity to my work, yada, 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 okay? First, you properly investigate whether or not ABC Learning Center is actually has children in it or not, or if they're even available for taking on new children at the ABC Learning Center. Then, if you actually have suspicion that there are no children there, even though it says that the state licensing board has shown that the total capacity is 40 children, but there's no children there, then what you're supposed to do is go to the Department of Human Services, okay? Then you're supposed to try to figure out exactly who conducted the investigation, who conducted the licensing investigation in 11/7/2025. Okay, you go and you figure out who actually conducted the licensing investigation or the interview in 11/7/2025, and then you try to interview them. You say, hey, I went to the ABC Learning Center. I called up the ABC Learning Center. They said that there wasn't actually any children there, but you clearly saw some children. Can you explain to me what happened? If you want to have a fucking private camera when you're conducting that investigation, even that's fine if you want to do that. But the problem is, that's conducting a real fucking investigation, and this is not that. Do you understand? Even Project Veritas has a higher standard for the malicious reporting that they engage in, and that's a propaganda operation tasked with doing hatchet jobs. We've actually devolved. Even our right-wing slop merchants have gotten worse at doing this kind of hack shit.
A spot to put my son Joey.
Yes.
Is this your daycare center?
No, I work there. What's happened?
I just want to put a child in daycare, but all the daycare centers seem to be closed. No one's opening the door.
He's like directly looking at the camera. He's like, what the fuck are you guys doing here?
You work here?
I was, yeah. What's happened?
Where are the kids?
Yeah?
It says it's licensed for 74 children. Right here, state of Minnesota. Where are the kids? They got paid $1.26 million in fiscal year 2025. It says they have a capacity for 70.
All right, we're looking at this one as well. Licensing lookup. This is the other place that they went to. So the first one that we went to, ABC Learning Center, it didn't actually have, like the claims that they made where there were no children there. That obviously doesn't, that is obviously not correct, right? At least according to the Department of Human Services. Now, if this conspiracy goes all the way up, now we're looking at Sweet Angel Childcare, Inc., okay? This is the other place that they went to. Well, right before their visit, and I assume they didn't just like visit, you know, on the 25th or whatever when this video was published. I suspect that they visited, let's say, a week prior to that on the 15th or something, right? Well, there was a Department of Human Services visit that took place with Sweet Angel Childcare, Inc. And the facility had hazardous objects that were accessible to children. This literally means like scissors, for the record, before you freak the fuck out. Children did not have access to personal hygiene products. And the correction documentation has not yet been submitted because the licensing review took place literally, 24 days ago. Okay? Just so you understand. Children did not have daily access to all interest areas. The program did not comply with first aid training requirements, and the program did not comply with CPR training requirements. Okay? A lot of these facilities are substandard, for sure. But you need to understand, the main claim being made here is not that the facilities are substandard. The main claim being here is that these facilities are actually lying, that there's no children there whatsoever. Now, if there is truth to the fact that there are actually no kids there, but it seems like the Department of Human Services, okay? Oh, children did not have access to daily interest areas. Children's hands were not washed with soap and water. Oh, yeah, health practices. Children's hands were not washed with soap and water. This seems to me like there are kids there, okay? The facilities are substandard, but it seems like there are kids there, okay? The main claim that they are making is that there are no kids there, okay? This is not a defense of the substandard conditions in this daycare, for the record. This is simply countering online, without even going there, the arguments that were being presented by Nick Shirley. This is now not one, but two different facilities that they've gone to where they claim that there are no children there and they can't go inside. And then they just simply say, there's no children there. Okay? There's no kids, bro. Okay. So here's the thing. Okay? Here's the thing. If there are no children at these facilities at all, okay, then this is a much, much larger investigation. There needs to be an investigation conducted at the federal level in the hands of the FBI to take a look at the Department of Human Services in the state of Minnesota. Okay, I am not saying that this is not the case. I'm not even saying that Nick Shirley is completely wrong with the claims that he is making. I'm simply saying that a proper investigation in this circumstance is not happening in the hands of Nick Shirley. Okay? Do you get what I'm saying here? Because there is, at least in the hands of the state, evidence that this kindergarten, this child care facility, does actually have children. Okay? Do you not understand? Don't say the shit I know you're saying, but don't tempt them. Do you not understand how nuclear of a fucking story this is? Because it's not just Medicare fraud or healthcare fraud or childcare fraud that's taking place. It's not about welfare fraud that's just simply taking place in the hands of like a couple individuals that are lying in that situation. This is a much more consequential, much larger investigation that needs to happen at this point, because it literally means that there are state authorities that are in on it. Okay? It means that there are state authorities that are in on it and that they're lying when they go to conduct licensing reviews. This is a major problem. Okay? This is a massive conspiracy at this point. Which, once again, a massive conspiracy at this point implies that there needs to be a way better method of investigating said conspiracy.
24 children.
When?
Where are the kids? Right here. State of Minnesota website. You work here and you don't know?
I don't know. I was there before. I don't know what's going on.
I think you're just trying to break down this conspiracy bit by bit and get ahead of it, which is fair. At first, it felt like a bad faith take, but I get it now. I'm glad that you're understanding what I'm saying. This happens all the time with, like, whenever I criticize the improper investigations conducted by clout sharks that do pedo hunters, right? They do pedo hunting content that basically serialize pedo hunting content. There are some on YouTube who actually do proper investigations and then take that information and give it to the law enforcement, right? Like the Roblox guy. Great example of the dude that actually went into Roblox and got punished by Roblox, ironically enough, for actually conducting this thorough investigation and then handing off all of that evidence to federal law enforcement, which did fuck all with it, right? That is a good way of investigating this shit. A bad way of investigating this shit or quote unquote investigating shit for clout is like what Vitaly was doing, right? Like going over there and sometimes even potentially faking the pedos that they hire or whatever, or engaging in entrapment and then beating the fuck out of them. At which point you're just doing it just for clout. You're not going to be able to actually imprison a real fucking pedophile because you're so horny to cut content. That's ridiculous. Why the fuck are you allowing pedophiles to thrive? Why the fuck are you allowing pedophiles to continue roaming the fucking streets by doing shit like that? Okay? And it's the same principle here. If you don't conduct a thorough and proper investigation into this massive conspiracy, you're basically allowing people that are engaging in criminal misconduct to get away with it.
Are there any kids when you work there?
He's there. Kids there. What's
How
up?
many?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Yeah.
You work there. Okay, well, then you're not of any help.
Can I put my son in a daycare here?
No, I don't know.
Can I speak to someone?
No, I don't know.
No? Yeah, I would like to see if
Like you have to understand, you're not a trustworthy person, okay? You're not a trustworthy person at this point. They're not going to fucking give you any information. They think you're like a freak. You're presenting yourself like a fucking weirdo with your meta glasses and your hoodie standing outside of a fucking kindergarten. Of course people are going to be like, I don't know, dude, please get away. Please leave. Like you have no credentials. You just fucking rolled up with a road mic on your chest and you're like, well, I can't believe they wouldn't let my freak ass into a child care facility where I'm claiming that there's no children, but we don't even know if there's no children in there or not. You have a fucking camera on you. Why the fuck would anybody let you in there? Even if the facility was closed, whether it's because of the holiday season or the facility was closed because they got dinged by the licensors for an extended period of time as they I don't know, make sure that the outlets are up to code or whatever as they found, right? Or there were hazardous objects accessible to children not have access to personal hygiene products, whatever the fuck, right? Even if they took the week off to make sure that they were kept up to compliance with first aid training requirements, for example, and there's no children there at that moment, why the fuck would they let you into the facility? Of course they're not going to let you into the facility. You're nobody. You're a random guy with a camera. Hey, what's up? I came with my best friend, local old man who constantly is asking, where are the kids? I want to see the kids. I would like to see some children, please. And they're not letting me into the facility. I wonder why, because you're not doing a fucking proper investigation.
I can put my son Joey here.
Who's your son, Joey?
My son Joey. Can I check out daycare center?
I'm not my son. No.
He don't
liar. I'm the owner.
Do you put your kid here in this daycare?
No.
There is one child in there. Yeah, I'd like to know if this is a legit business.
Me, I'm scared of you too. How come I explain everything?
You're scared of me?
Yeah.
Why?
Because of your curry.
Because of my color. You said you're scared of me because of my color. Does that make you a racist?
Yeah, no.
Now the argument has moved entirely in a separate direction. We're now doing reverse racism, anti-white racism. I wonder why a Somali person in Minneapolis right now would be afraid of exactly what people like this are doing. I wonder where that fear is coming from. Probably totally a ridiculous fear. Of course, a lot of people that are watching from afar that also have the same suspicions about the entire Somali community. Once again, Somali Americans. Is going to go, see, this person is suspicious of him because he's onto it. Okay. I don't even because of my
color. You said you're scared of me because of my color. Does that make you a racist?
Yeah, no.
But
No.
You said you're scared of me because of my color.
I'm not saying you're racist.
You said you're scared of me because of my color. That makes you a racist. So right now, they're all.
Wait, did she say because of your recording or because of your color?
Me, I'm scared of you too. How come I explain everything?
You're scared of me?
Yeah.
Why?
Because of your curry.
Oh, she said because you're recording. And pointed to the fucking collar. As in like the recording equipment that and then the fucking lol hearing what he wants to hear. Yeah, I mean, of course. This is at the intersection of so many issues. Because as I've said over and over again, like if everyone is this dumb and this fucking primed, this tuned in, then you just, if the audience if the audience is like receptive to this kind of commentary, there's not really much you can do. They'll come in here and they'll say, oh, you're a fucking idiot. She obviously was saying she's racist against white people. You know what I mean?
because of my color. You said you're scared of me because of my color.
I'm not saying you're racist.
You said you're scared of me because of my color. That makes you a racist. So right now,
This is my
they're all
tax
getting
money.
mad because he's showing the
I
paperwork
don't
of
know
this
that.
business being registered as a business. 74 children,
I've
no
lived my whole
children.
life
We saw
here.
one child when the lady opened up the door.
So
now
where did
they're
this
all
money
getting mad.
go? What was this money spent on? 1.26 million. What was that money
Ask
spent
the
on? There aren't any kids.
Ask
Yeah,
the
lots
doctor.
of cuts where she's like replying. We don't even know what she said. This is why it's easier to use immigrants as scapegoats because they can never defend themselves correctly. Yeah, there's also like the obvious language barrier here at play as well. And also he has complete control over the edit. This is what like, this is a big part of the problem with like also the way that Project Veritas operates as well. This is an even shittier version of Project Veritas, low-key. But it still has like the same Project Veritas elements. Like even with her being like, oh, you're recording. Like that's basically the way she said it. But like he said, oh, you mean my color? And then she doesn't even understand exactly what he's responding with. She's like, or even if she did respond in a way to say, no, you're recording, for example, it's cut out. So we don't even know what the fuck she actually said.
Kids.
Well, then why are you talking
That's
for the
not my
owner
proof.
if you're
That's
telling me
not
to
my
talk
proof.
to the owner?
I'm sorry.
The interaction is shit, but that's not the main point. I mean, these are all pieces of the proof that they are laying, right? Oh, they're being suspicious. Of course, this is a part of the narrative here. Oh, we went to a childcare facility. We didn't see any children when I tried to forcefully enter the childcare facility. And then some people that work there or worked there in the past or currently work there were trying to be like, what the fuck are you guys doing? And they got frustrated, even though we're just like recording everything and it's understandable to be fucking frustrated in that situation. Like, close your eyes and imagine this being white people, okay? And you'll understand why it's a problem if you can't see it with like Somalis, okay? Like imagine, I don't know, like a woke guy trying to fucking enter a childcare facility. So yes, they may be acting in bad faith, but is the claim wrong though? If the claim is that there's no children there, according to evidence that has a much higher degree of a priority here in the hierarchy of evidence that we look at, according to the Department of Human Services and the investigations that they've conducted, as they do for licensing review over and over again, once a year, right? There are kids there. So yes, the claim that they're making for at least two of these facilities are incorrect. That there's no children there is incorrect, unless, and he even said he saw one kid in the facility, but that's, you know. She said your caller, not recording. Whatever. I don't think she said your caller. I think she said, because there's multiple syllables that she blurted out, but it doesn't even fucking matter.
I'm not understand what you're talking about.
Do you have a child here?
No.
Does anybody?
Did
Where are
you
the
just
74
take those
kids? Did
open
you
for a
lose them?
day? Wait. Okay. Again, I love this accusation. The reason why I love this accusation is because what you're saying is that rather than every single year when they conduct these random visits, right? And it's not always at the same time, as you've seen, and they've done it multiple times. There's been a technical assistance review in 2022, then there's a licensing review, another licensing review in 2022, twice in the year 2022, and then once in 2023, once in 2024, okay? They're just finding children, like random children that they're bringing in, 74 of them, right? 74 of them to get together to make it seem like they have an operational childcare facility. Okay? The licensing can occur with no children present. What's your point? Yeah, except clearly the licensing did not occur with no children being present at this point because they say children's hands were not washed with soap and water. So unless they're fucking hallucinating the children that were not washing their hands with soap and water, okay? Did they invent the children? Did they bring the children but then simply did not wash their hands with soap and water? Is that what happened? I mean, what would you do for a few million? They got to keep the funds rolling in. Brother, you have to look at this as what's more likely, okay? And if your suspicion in this situation requires a much grander conspiracy, then it's probably the simpler explanation that this person's underlying assessment or this underlying claim is probably incorrect, okay? It's okay. It's all right. Maybe some of the other facilities are fraudulent, but so far, the two that we've looked at, right? The two that we've looked at, there is more evidence to suggest unless there is a much grander conspiracy here where the state is also involved, right? The state is also involved in the cover-up, right? Because one of the places we're already charged with fraud, though, great, okay? Then they should have done a proper investigation into that one, rather than all of these other facilities that seemingly, according to Ilhan Omar, may be involved. You can say that there are people working for the human services of the state. Yeah, it's based on total capacity, not active roster, by the way. I know. It doesn't mean that it's like fully booked anyway. I love how people think that leftists would be okay with people committing mass fraud on safety nets. I know. They just think that, like, in their minds, they think I'm defending people stealing from welfare funds because it's potentially Somali people stealing from welfare funds. Not understanding that I don't give a fuck what someone's background is. White, black, brown, Somali, doesn't fucking matter. There is no theft from welfare funds that is appropriate, okay? I think they should be criminally charged after conducting a proper investigation. The issue that I have with this video so far is that this is not a proper investigation. This is something that is presenting itself as a proper investigation for the dumbest people to fucking get on board with by leaning into a whole bunch of different speculative aspects without actually following a through line that in a careful manner that would actually crack open a case such as this one. Because if the claim that they're making is that there's no children here and they're lying, right? And if that claim is true, that means that the investigators that are looking into the facilities are also in on the conspiracy. Now it's a much larger conspiracy that requires members of the state to also be properly charged and also investigated and potentially convicted by the federal law enforcement. Do you not understand? You sound worse than Candace? What do you mean worse than Candace? They're not stealing. This is how city contracts work. Holy shit, this is so annoying. You sound worse than Candace. Brother, sister, the emperor. I'm saying that if the claims being made are real, it requires thorough investigation, because now all of a sudden there is a much broader, much larger conspiracy that involves the state. Okay?
Did you lose these kids? Do I need to call someone? Do I need to issue an Amber Alert for missing children? Are these children missing? It's not my business that children are missing. 74 infants and...
You're right on the hand, but I do need to say, play devil's advocate here. If this was Israel-backed daycares being called out for this, I think you would lean more towards... Wait, do you think this is Somali-backed daycares? Like the government of Somalia is backing these daycares? Number one, I never said that. Number two, you're fucking stupid. I'm not defending this at all. Okay, listen. If I just fucking call you a pedophile, okay, and just keep calling you a pedophile in a fucking YouTube video, and then you get frustrated and go, oh, I'm not a pedophile. I go, see? This is not sufficient evidence. I think you are a pedophile. Do you feel like that would be appropriate? Do you feel like I conducted an actual fucking investigation? What do you mean? I'm not defending the fucking potential of fraud taking place here. Obviously not. You're right, Hassan. But if this was against Palestinians, you'd be okay with fraud. Yeah.
Toddlers, preschool.
The proof's right there. There's no children anywhere.
You are hand waving this video because of the Zoomer cloud chasing. You are being pedantic. By the way, I looked up the daycares in the state, and virtually every single one has yearly reviews and violations. To put this into perspective, the question I have is, why didn't he put that in here? Or if he did, what kind of investigation did he actually conduct after the fact to try to figure out whether or not the state is actually also involved in this fucking conspiracy? Because I'm not saying that there's no likelihood that this couldn't be like a comprehensive conspiracy, but it would involve the state at that point. Okay? And especially if the state was involved in the conspiracy, why the fuck are they making up like fake violations then when they're doing their licensing reviews? Is that also a part of the grand design of this conspiracy where they're like finding fake fraud or fake license issues so that they throw you off the trail? Is that what it is? Is this like a part of this grand conspiracy, or is it perhaps the initial claim might not be correct?
Minnesota right here. It's kept
All right.
away.
I think we're moving on to the next location. Have a good day.
As we continue to show the blatant fraud that was taking place here in Minnesota, Somalis started following us around the city.
And now we're being followed by the Somalis. This is another daycare center, absolutely no signage, and there's no footprints in the snow.
Yeah, bro, that doesn't even look open. Like, I think that one might not be
Well,
open
this
at
is
all,
another daycare
actually. They literally have fencing around it.
Center, absolutely no signage.
Like, oh, wait, it does have fencing. It does have a door into it. Never mind.
Signage,
Also, there is
and there's no
footprints. What the
footprints in the
fuck?
snow of children.
Wait, what? What? Wait a minute.
Another daycare center.
I only saw this part. I didn't realize that there was a door there, and I thought it was like a closed business. No, there
Absolutely
is
no
literally
signage.
there's a gate. There's clearly footprints going in and out. Okay, do we have the state investigation into this one? Okay, we're looking at the licensing lookup of this one now. This is the third one that we're looking into. Child Care Center address, Minnesota Best Child Care Center. Imagine being a state investigator, seeing this video, and now your 8 months of work is gone because the actual fraudsters are on high alert. 3/17/2025, licensing review. The program space was not clean. Equipment and furniture were not in good repair. Documentation was not available to show that a teacher did not meet the qualifications. And then the correction documentation was submitted and also approved. It seems that this child care facility is actually intact. They were also fined in 2024. Equipment and furniture were not in good repair, corrected on site. The program did not submit a background study requested Department of Homeland Security when required. Then they submitted the correction documentation and it was approved. Area used by children were not in good repair. Correction documentation was submitted and approved. I'm wondering if all these places look so shitty because they needed to make so many so fast. Oh, sorry, DHS is not Department of Homeland Security, Department of Human Services. The front door of a daycare is always locked. To come in, you have to have a child there, and to be on the list to pick up a child and to be able to identify yourself to do so. These are heavily regulated for obvious reasons. It's not the place to do a completely made-up fraud scheme. Nobody just shows up to visit. Yeah, well, people do show up to visit, pedophiles, and now apparently right-wing content creators that want to do the new Pizzagate, this time on random kindergartens in Minneapolis.
And there's no footprints in the snow of children playing outside. $5 million within the past
5.9 million in 2 years. 5.9 million they received in 2 years. That facility right there.
And now we have a group of Somalis telling us in our vehicle right now.
From this daycare center, we headed over
Yeah,
to
bro, they think you're pedophiles. Like, what do you mean? Kind of you to call him a content creator? Like,
the infamous Quality Learning Center, which actually spells Quality Leering Center on the outside of their sign. That's how blatant this fraud is here at this daycare.
Don't open up.
So this is Quality Leering Center. I meant to say Quality Learning Center.
Don't open
They
up.
said they spelt learning wrong.
Don't open up.
How do you have ice here, ma'am? I'm literally a YouTuber.
Don't open up.
oh, this lady thinks it's ice. Oh, they have a lot of investigations. Yeah, there was a licensing investigation and a licensing review that took place. The floor plan did not contain all required items. Staff did not supervise the children at all times. The program was not operating within the terms of the license. And then there's another licensing review that takes place. And they've gotten dinged multiple times. Okay? This would have triggered a hard lockdown at the preschool I worked at. He's going to traumatize children doing this. I mean, luckily he doesn't actually enter any of the facilities. So I don't think any of the fucking, I don't think any of the children were actually traumatized in this situation. Areas used by children were not in good repair. Crib mattress and other sheets did not meet safety requirements and or items were in a crib or infant under 12 months. Written parental permission had not been obtained for administering medicine or topical products. The program did not follow healthcare providers' written instructions when administering prescription medication. Again, all of this stuff, there were proper documentation after the fact. Correction documentation was submitted and approved. I think you should make a little note on that it is far and way more common for these places to get violations than to not get violations because the codes are very strict. Yes. I know I'm sure that there are some people in the chat that work in facilities such as this one. So you already know that this is this is one of the most aggressively, while it's still oftentimes underfunded. Your whole take on this should be shared widely because the comment section on this video is so apparently gross and racist. My take on this will not be shared widely. My take on this will, people will clip whatever they clip out of this conversation where I'm like responding to someone and will immediately say Hassan actually wants criminal fraud and misconduct to take place when it's actually Somalis doing it because he hates white people and he thinks like black people can do no wrong or some shit. It'll be because the starting point of this argument is like heavily racialized, very white nativist, that the additional arguments that will come along with it will not actually recognize what I'm criticizing here. Okay. They will try to make it seem like I'm defending it. Even there are chatters in here who think I'm defending it. There are long-term community members in here who think I'm defending the criminal misconduct that's taking place. I'm not. Okay. I am, however, looking at the likelihood that the claims that Nick Shirley is making are accurate by matching it up against an investigation that was conducted in virtually all of these places, considering that childcare is heavily regulated by the state. Okay? It's heavily regulated by the state in each individual state. Obviously, there's differences in the regulation on a state by state basis, but this is one of the. If you're trying to create a narrative, if you are trying to create a narrative that there is like mass fraud taking place, this is perhaps one of the worst industries to claim it because of how much the state obviously has to do upkeep and to maintain proper licensing because they're taking care of children. It's like schools and kindergartens and places like that. Childcare facilities are some of the worst places to do fraud in. If you're going to do, like, it's like if you're going to money launder, you purchase a laundromat, right? If you're going to money launder, I think an area where it's not a cash-only business is one of the worst places to do money laundering in, right? Like you buy a car wash or a fucking laundromat and you do a cash-only business, right? You don't do money laundering in a heavily safeguarded and heavily regulated business that has no cash coming in, right? For example, now, having said that, once again, extravagant claims require an unimaginable amount of evidence. Okay, you can't just like fucking run around and be like, oh, these guys are doing mass fraud at these places, and then the investigation that you try to do in this situation is just like knocking on the doors of fucking random kindergartens or childcare facilities and be like, where is it? Where are the children? Where are the children? You know, that's fucking ridiculous.
Ma'am, what do you think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota?
Don't open up. We have ice.
And what do you think about this place being licensed for 99 children
Don't open up.
and getting $4 million
Don't
over the
open up. It's ice.
$4 million in the last 2 years?
Go away.
What do you think about that? Are you in
Go
favor?
away.
Are you in
Yeah, you're missing a major part of this. You should mention that there's a massive chance that they're only showing the ones that look suspicious and excluding the ones that have nothing to do, point at. If this is the best they could come up with, that's embarrassing for their narrative. Yeah, ironically enough, it's heavily relying on vibes overall. The vibes of the audience to believe that there is like this extraordinary amount of fraud taking place, and there is no proof whatsoever of the claims being made at all. And there's actually counter narratives, or at least evidence that is a significantly higher. Then why are they blacking out? Why are the windows blacked out if it's a legitimate kindergarten? Wait, what? That's the reason why you think it's a fake kindergarten, because the windows are blacked out and the doors are locked? Maybe because they don't want fucking pedophile peeping toms looking in. What do you mean? That was the reason why you were sussed out? Yeah, that's not weird at all. Sunlight is good for the children, bro. Oh. A lot of people apparently keeps getting said by these bots. It doesn't cost $4 million to take care of 5 kids. Okay, now we're doing like a cost analysis and shit. Okay, again, if you think that they are improperly spending the money, that's entirely different. But that's not the claim being made. The claim being made here is that there's no children in these facilities at all. The claim being made is that there's no children there's no children in these facilities. There's obviously evidence that there is children according to the state, the Department of Human Services, and the licensing investigations that they have conducted. There's obviously children there. So now you're moving the fucking goalpost. Atrioc blanket endorsed this video this morning. Is disappointing, to be honest. Oh. The thing that I'm frustrated by is that there is probably at least one of the places that they went to that is actually suspicious or doesn't fucking meet that same standard, okay? So far, all we can do is either look at the evidence and look at the actual state authorities that have done licensing videos, not licensing videos, sorry, licensing investigations over and over again. And if there is evidence to suggest that the state is lying, then they're involved in this much grander fucking conspiracy, okay? Those people need to be punished too. The people at the Department of Human Services also need to go to jail if that's the case.
Favor of that?
Go away.
You know
You're
where the-
not welcome here.
Are you-
Shame on you.
Are you in favor of $1.9
Shame
million
on you. It's
going
ICE.
illegally,
Don't open up.
fraudulently to this business that has quality learning center but can't even spell learning right on the door?
Don't open up.
Ma'am, we are not ICE.
I don't care who you are. You don't belong here.
I belong here just like you belong here.
Don't open up. It's ICE.
You do realize that
Verify the Atrioc claim. Don't trust chat. I know. I'm going to watch the Atrioc video in a second. I think the reason why they're saying that is because he basically gave a lot of credence to the claims that this guy was making initially, because there is also evidence of widespread fraud, welfare fraud in particular, in Minneapolis. But that's why a good propagandist, even if they're not very intelligent, can lean into already pre-existing instances of fraud to create a much grander narrative, a much grander conspiracy. And you have to be very careful with the way that guys like this conduct themselves.
there's supposed to be 99 children in here at this building, but there's no one
You don't know if there's no one in there.
in here. This is a child daycare
Minnesota
center.
says 99 children. Paid $1.9 million this year in CCAP funding.
Look, you say there's no one in there and you point to the parking lot, okay? And at first you go, wait a minute, there's not a lot of cars there. Then you realize there are some cars there, specifically the fucking, and also that doesn't mean that there's 99 children there at all times. That means that the total capacity is 99 children. I don't know how many fucking children are supposed to be in there. But of course there's not going to be any cars there because kindergartners don't drive in their own vehicles to the fucking kindergarten, okay? To the child care facility.
Do you know where the children are? Were they kidnapped? They run away? Where are the children?
And this one has been dinged the most, so they might actually be fucking, their next renewal is in December, but I don't even know if they're still in service, okay? This one had a litany of violations. This guy also immediately goes, what are they, kidnapped? I just returned. Did our heroes manage to ogle some kids at this point or not? No, they have not been able to. They have not been able to ogle any of the children.
This is state of Minnesota. Right here.
And who are you?
My name's Nick Shirley, ma'am.
And who are you with?
Nick Shirley. Nick Shirley on YouTube.
Yeah, so who are you with here?
Oh, he's just been doing some research investigating the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm with Nick Shirley.
This lady, she's calling us ICE. We're just trying to put law and order back in the streets of the United States.
That's how TikTok responded.
Get rid of all
They
the
shut
fraud.
down.
Have you ever seen children at that daycare center right there?
Where?
Yeah, it's right there. It says the child, you've never seen. Fraud is taking place within the government and the Somali population. Here, this building alone, Quality Learning Center, is a daycare, yet they spelled learning wrong, and they said leering. This daycare alone in 2025 has received $1.9 million from the government. And the strange thing about these childcare centers is there's no one here right now. It's midday on a weekday. If you were to try to go inside, it's completely closed and the windows are all blacked out. No one's working midday. Children should be in here, and this place is licensed for 99 children.
We about to fact check this first. If you mess with me, make sure you hit that follow button. Let's get it. What the hell is he talking about? First, the reason why you don't see any kids there on a midday is because they're permanently closed. Which makes me wonder, why didn't you show nobody what it said on that door? And I tried to read it, but you literally blurred it out. Now, the reason why they're closed isn't because of fraud, it's because they're a bad daycare center. I mean, if you was an actual journalist, you would have been able to find all the
There you
investigators.
go. They spelt learning wrong, so they made the sign themselves. Yeah, I mean, I think you can get a pretty solid indication of the lack of interest. The blackout windows is normal. My daughter's pre-K has blacked out windows. You have to be a parent to go inside to be able to see the kids. Yes.
They had since 2022. Their last investigation was in July. See that all the violations are related to child safety, which is why the facility has been in probation multiple times, which makes me believe that that paper up there is a sanctioning paper. I know this because that's one of their violations that they didn't post it up. And if you see
Wait.
this was in July. See that all the violations are related to child safety, which is why the facility has been in probation multiple times, which makes me believe
Wait, there was a piece of paper on the door when they walked up to it? Oh, there is. Wait, you can kind of see what the paper says here. Let me see if I can zoom into it. I wonder if we can see it. It's like too blurry. I don't know if that facility is actually closed or not. I don't know why that TikToker is saying it's closed. It could be. Right click to save a frame. No, it doesn't. It's not blurred necessarily, but it is not. You can't really see it. He showed a Google Maps page for the center. He looked it up on Google Maps and it said permanently closed. Let me see if I can find it on Google Maps. Let me see. I'm not. Let's see if I can find it. Quality Learning Center, Minneapolis. Quality Kids Care Center is closed right now, but that's not the one, I don't think. Fuck, I have to pee. Community Child Care Center. It's not showing up. I don't know where he got that information from. Notice he never reads the paper himself, which would be the most obvious thing to do if you're trying to get more info on the place, probably because it disagrees with his narrative. I mean, I don't even know if it's like... it's in the TikTok. I don't care. I want to do it on my own. I want to fucking properly investigate it on my own. I want to actually see if there is if the claim is accurate. Because this one says Quality Learning Center, but it says it's a mosque and it says it's open 24 hours, so it's not correct. The link that you linked me is clearly not correct. Kind of suspicious that I look up this place and the most recent review is from 45 minutes ago. It's a mosque now. I'm going to keep checking back to this location to see if all the fraud stuff is actually happening. Yeah, they very clearly started they made a new fucking point on the address. Someone made a new address or new point of interest on Google Maps after this video came out. You have to be a little bit smarter than this, okay? People can just like edit shit on Google Maps. 62 investigations underway involving federally funded Minnesota child care centers. This is from January 28th, 2025. State records show the Quality Learning Center daycare still receives $7.8 million in federal tax money since 2019. Despite these regulatory issues, its conditional license was removed. This is the one that they're talking about. So its conditional license was removed in 2024. Another business in Minneapolis, Minnesota Child Care Center, had 36 violations between 2021 and 2023. Some of them serious. The Child Care Center's violations included failure to request initial background checks on 6 staff members. Minnesota House Speaker designate Representative Lisa DeMuth told 5 Eyewitness News this showed oversight is seriously lacking. DeMuth asked, are we keeping kids safe in Minnesota? And what you have showed me here brings that very much to the question. DeMuth also said the legislature needs to take a closer look at the information provided by 5 Eyewitness News. So once again, this also goes against the initial argument that a lot of right-wingers were claiming, which is that it's not showing. It's not showing. These guys don't care about this. These guys don't care about this. Clearly, people have investigated this. Actual investigations, okay? Actual investigations have been conducted, okay? DHS licensing monitors licensed child care centers like Quality Learning Center for compliance with licensing or certification requirements, including health and safety standards. This monitoring is conducted during an unannounced annual visit. For the chatters who are wondering how the licensing is conducted, it's an unannounced annual visit. And the results of the visit, including the type of visit, date of visit, and any violations are posted on the DHS licensing information lookup site. So for the chatters that were saying, what if they bring children in on the day of? What if they bring children in on the day of? Unless they are literally telling the facilities that they're bringing in investigators right before they do it because they're a part of the grand conspiracy, you know, there are obviously children there. It's just that these facilities, some of them are dog shit. They're not fraudulent in the sense that they're not fraudulent in the sense that there's no children there and there's just like empty buildings that they're just like, and they're farming a lot of welfare. They're farming a lot of funds from welfare. It's just that they are actually getting funds from welfare. There are children there, but some of these facilities are in substandard conditions, which is the reason why there was an investigation that was conducted. And the place that he went to actually was revoked of his license. Having poor standards and running an entirely fraudulent business where there's no children, which is the claim being made here, are two separate issues, okay? To be fair, it seems like part of the scheme was regulators not really looking into most of these places and mostly just taking the word of the organization for it. Not that this kid is actually doing the work necessary to prove that for these ones. Yes, but you understand that there is a entire world of difference between the investigators are not also properly conducting the licensing, like the regulators are not doing their jobs, again, versus there are no children there. Which is ironic because it goes back to my argument, which is that there needs to be proper regulation, and the authorities need to actually ensure that the regulators are actually tasked with doing the proper regulation. Okay? So just understand that, like, if there is some serious crime taking place here, some serious fraudulent activity taking place here, then the appropriate measures that need to be taken require the federal law enforcement to actually go through and hold the Department of Human Services in the state accountable for not doing their due diligence. Okay? Corrective action is the child care. Okay, so when it's determined that one or more licensing violations occurred, a correction order may be issued. The correction order lists citations of the violations and specifics for corrective actions the child care provider must take. Programs are typically ordered to correct the violation immediately. The Department of Homeland Security also evaluates the nature, severity, or chronicity of licensing violations and the effect of the violation on the health, safety, and rights of persons served by the program to determine whether a more serious sanction, such as a conditional license, is warranted. No, I mean the places that did not have any children, which is true for some. I don't know about the other ones in this video, though. Nick certainly has not proved it. It seems that there was no due diligence done and they just signed off on whatever. Well, the problem is if the Department of Human Services is literally saying that there are a litany of different licensing complications that they found without actually seeing any children that are in violation of the like health standards, for example, then they're just making up children that are there. And because no person that actually works in the child care facility is going to turn around and tell the fucking Department of Human Services guy, be like, yeah, we got kids here, but also they don't wash their hands, you know, so they can get dinged, right? So they can have their, if they are running a fraudulent operation where there's no kids whatsoever, then obviously it's not in their best interest to invite additional scrutiny into their licensing investigation, okay? Do you understand? This isn't to say that there is no fraud happening. I need to say this over and over again. I'm not saying that there's no fraud happening. As a matter of fact, there is definitionally some of these childcare facilities and many other places in Minneapolis have been investigated thoroughly and have been found to engage in fraudulent activities. Okay, this is true. This is real. But the argument that is being made by Nick Shirley and now being parroted by the right is that this is happening in virtually all of the childcare facilities that are run by, I guess, Somalis. I don't even know if they're all run by Somalis or not, but that's the claim that they're making. And that this is a Somali-style fraud. Somali U.S. citizens of Somali descent. A conditional license requires compliance with special terms of the program to continue to operate. Licenses are also conducted additional reviews during the conditional license period to monitor for compliance with the terms of conditional license and the health and safety standards. But like I said, the one that he went to last where he says there's no children there, well, it turns out that one... Here, you know what? Let's just watch this real quick because this is a real investigation from January 28th in the beginning of this year in 2025. Now, maybe you will understand there's a difference between a real investigation, if you see a real investigation in the same exact facility, the singular facility in question here, and whatever Nick Shirley was doing so that you can understand, you know, what real journalism, investigative reporting actually is supposed to look like.
Government programs after scandals questioned their oversight.
We got complaints about the Child Care Assistance Program and took a closer look at some of the daycare centers receiving millions of your taxpayer dollars. And we found reports of violations state investigators called a threat to the safety of children at centers that continued to receive those federal dollars.
Jay Cole spent months looking into these issues, and he joins us now with what he's found in a story you're seeing first on 5. Jay.
Yeah, Lindsay, CCAP is a $34 million state program that receives federal funding. It benefits more than 12,000 low-income families each month across the entire state. Learning of growing concerns about the program from sources at the Capitol, I started looking into some of the daycares receiving the most money. Despite many serious safety violations over multiple years, they continue to receive funding. And now